Governor Gavin Newsom revealing revisions to the budget. The state is coming up billions of dollars short. Now, the shortfall was found to be much greater than expected, adding more than $9 billion to the already projected $22.5 billion deficit.
An additional $9.3 billion shortfall.
Governor Gavin Newsom says California's budget deficit has grown to more than $31 billion. The state's revenue is highly dependent on its progressive tax code, which relies on high earners who are subjected to the ups and downs of capital gains from the stock market.
Or at least 1/2 of the revenue that we receive in the state through the personal income tax comes from 1% of the population.
Those comments very different from what he announced just a year ago.
We're proposing $18.1 billion to put back in the pockets of millions and millions.
Despite the projected deficit growing, the overall size of the budget you're proposing is actually larger than it was in January. I'm wondering, for people who might be, confused as to why that is, can you explain that and what your thinking is behind, actually kind of growing the budget despite the deficit?
Well, the revenue side of this is what it is. I mean, revenue comes in and revenue goes out. I mean, $2.3 billion. I'll give you an example. We're putting more revenue into reserves. That's an expense. Putting revenues to pay down long-term obligations, PERS and unfunded healthcare liability. That's an expense. We have a constitutional cap under Prop 2, that 10%. There's about $2.3 billion of that also now has to go to infrastructure. That's an expense. So that's how a budget sort of stacks up. It gets a little complicated. I get it, but that's, I think, foundationally, fundamentally, and they can get into more details, why you see something going up and yet you're still experiencing a surplus, or a deficit, that is.
You may have seen the news around the debt ceiling. I think it's interesting that there's not been a lot of focus on why is the debt ceiling debate happening June 1st. The reason, well, but I don't think is broadly shared by the American public, is they had to move up the date because they're not collecting enough cash. Why are they not collecting cash? Because the IRS delayed tax payments. California, we estimate $42 million were delayed between now and October. Why does that matter? Well, the feds can't pay their bills. But it wasn't just California, it was other states. Why were taxes delayed in Florida, not just California, and a half dozen or dozen other states? It's because of unprecedented impacts associated with climate. The deluge out here, the extreme events out there. All these things are connected. What damn more evidence do we need about the world we're living in? This is not just isolated to a few small issues. This has a global construct in terms of manifesting in the stress and anxiety that we're now experiencing around this debt ceiling debate in Washington, D.C.